No, yeah, Auto, sorry, I know what you're talking about. But that is not what we're dealing with, everybody. What's going on? Back with the Westerosi Ninja. It's almost like fate. Like we've been fated by Odin himself to be back, because it's about almost 1 day away or 2 days away from the anniversary of 3 years ago that I did my first YouTube Confidential, which is a fun series for everybody, that I started YouTube. But Milt, the Westerosi Ninja, is here with me, and we're going to do, at first, for as much and as long as we can, people, we are going to do the light spoiler review of Vikings Season 6B, aka the final season. Milt, introduce yourself.
Light spoiler.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, this is the Westworld Ninja here. You got my info in the video information section, and you know where to find me. Anyway, by the way, Happy New Year to everyone, and hopefully everyone will have a safe and a great 2021, because it can't get much worse.
Don't say that. I honestly think that's a big mistake we're making. I honestly think we keep saying that shit, and it's just going to be bad. Like we need to be like accepting that it could technically be worse, but let's hope it's not.
So I mean, yeah, but I'm a glass half full guy. So
yeah. Well, I'm just a guy that's looking for some fucking water, like ube on the ocean floating around.
But what I'm looking for is my $2,000.
Yeah, you'll get it.
Which won't happen.
You'll get it, my friend. So
but this isn't a political stream whatsoever. So I'll get my 600 instead.
Well, wait till I have a few drinks. We'll see what happens. I do want to say thank you to all my Patreons: Amberlyn McKay, Cardinal Doomsday, Axel Foley. That's Daily DVR. I'm going to link him below. A big supporter, but also a colleague. Nana L, Nancy T, Tiziana Vitali, Susan Dunkel, Brett Fuller, and honorary Maura Lee. So, yeah, if you want to support creativity, make sure to go to the link in the information below. Also, Milt's channel, The Westerosi Ninja, is in the information below. And we're going to be talking about Vikings 6B. So the first thing I want to kind of do is get a feeler from you, Milt, in the chat simultaneously. What do you think overall? And I'm going to put you on the spot here, even though we've been talking for like an hour, and just ask you something, which is kind of arbitrary and kind of an odd question. But like from 1 to 10, obviously 10 being the best, how do you rate this season?
Okay, I would rate this probably about a 6.5. I think it was on the level of basically seasons 5A and 4B.
So 6. Okay, so 6.5. What were the 5A and which ones?
And 4B. So 4B was the season right after the time jump, right?
Gotcha. When
Ragnar comes back, and 5A was the introduction of the adult Arthur, right, and the whole army, the revenge of Ragnar's death. That's the great army.
When Bjorn goes to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, part of it. Yeah.
Okay. And then when Ragnar dies.
Mm-hmm.
And then the aftermath of that, which would be the Great Heathen Army.
Exactly. Yep. And that was 5A.
Got you. Yeah.
And then I consider 5B a season because Ivar claims to be a god.
Yeah. It gets a little bit rough. We'll get to it.
Actually, it's not just because of that. So, but anyway, that's one of the reasons why.
That's a fair enough statement, though. Omar, while 4B is up there as one of my favorite. Omar, he is a well-skilled, not only debater,
hey, Omar.
But you look at any Vikings video on the internet, from Keen McKay, from the very pinnacle of success, Keen McKay, we love to death, to just like a random like Swedish version of a Vikings trailer or Japanese version of a Vikings trailer, you will see Omar prominently within those comments. And then me and him had quite the debate, and I forget where we came from, or where we left it off at, as far as I believe I did think that Bjorn was going to, because we were going to do light spoilers. The first episode is King of Kings, and Bjorn does die at the end of this episode. I feel a lot of people have already seen this episode, so I think that's a safe little segue here for us. But yeah, when you get stabbed through the gut, evidently, we'll talk about it later, for old Alfred, right through here.
Especially without the benefit of antibiotics.
Yeah, it's pretty deadly. So yeah, like it wasn't a dream, and I think that, I don't know. I think it's a we'll have to push it. Omar, I'll look at those Reddit conversations only because I think I might be wrong with what we bet on, and I might owe you money, but we'll figure that out after. A tale for another time. So we have the beginning episode, the beginning segment to the end of all of the Vikings Golden Age. The very overt telling of this story that I think they do it several times. I think they're very self-aware during this season, and I kind of appreciate that on a meta level, right? Like they're very self-aware that they've been past their prime and it's time to finish things up.
Oh, by the way, you never gave us your ranking, Justin. You asked me what my ranking was.
Yeah, well, my channel, so you know what I mean. I don't want to. I would probably say that the first half of this season, the first episode of this season, really, like it just really anchors it. it solidifies it in greatness for me. I think that the King of Kings episode, which is where we have Bjorn ride out, they strap the armor on him. We have Gunhild in a very Shakespearean way, especially with the cinematography, with this perspective just on her tell the tale. Oh my God. Like it's so, it brings the feels on, man. Like it's very empowering. Like they make you care about Bjorn, and they're overt in the sense of like what I'm talking about, being aware of like these characters and where they're at. Bjorn's like, I don't have time to fix all the things I messed up. It's like, man, I don't know how much time you thought you had. Like you've not been a good dad. Like you've not been, but they're kind of like very on the surface about it, which I can respect, but also they play it a little bit coy, but they also play it very epically. It is epic.
I mean, it was a very emotional, very well done, spoken eulogy that Gunhild did at the end, right? But in terms of like the entire season, I mean, it was a great episode, right? 10%.
Yeah. Okay.
Season,
Not
right?
letting me out the hook. Okay. Fine. Then well, I didn't ask to rank it against others for you. You chose to do that. I give it a 8.2.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Because finishing a story is one of the hardest things to do. And they have to seal things up, and they have to seal them up quick. It's clear there's probably a reason why Amazon dropped it all at once, and History Channel is going to still try to, drop it weekly. We'll see how that goes. Kind of an experiment.
I think Dan and Dave would agree with you on that point.
Well, Dan and Dave, well, yeah, they probably would, but I wouldn't appreciate it. Yeah, they chose just to go the route of it's impossible to finish the story, so why even try? No, they really did really sink the landing on quite a few aspects of this story, all jokes aside. And Gunhild's little tale at the end of it are her epic, like, oration, right? Of the saga of Bjorn, about how he's greater than his father. She is depicting what he is, his faults, and he's also playing this out. What they did, they started this with the battle, right? Where they had Ivar. I really like this format where they talk about what they're going to do, and then you see it play out on the battlefield, right? And they kind of play, I think Tyrion Lannister does this. For all you Son of Ice and Fire heads out there, for King's Landing, right? He's like, but they won't expect them to come through the sewers, and they show the Unsullied. I think that's a very smart way to show a battle, just visually, because it's hard to tell a story through action, and that really helps it, right? Because they're giving like motivations, they're giving all these character traits throughout this. It's exposing vulnerability, it's exposing all these insights to a character, because like Tyrion knows he's the underdog, and you get the story of how he had like, the tunnels and sewers and blah, blah, blah. In the same way with Ivar. Ivar's talking about all these formidable feats. I feel like they actually dropped the ball, and this is talking about last season, the actual season finale of it, but I think they did it really well here, because you had Gunhild talking to everybody as if he'd already died, and it really was, if you're talking about tense in the sense of what time it really is. It is after he's already in his mausoleum of sorts, which somebody sent me on Twitter, a cool video, because that really is a place in which you can visit. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Bjorn that's buried
really?
there.
Bjorn, yeah, or you're not sure about that?
I am not. I'm still not.
Okay.
I'm really not, and I'm sorry for the person who sent it to me, but I'm still not very sure about who that's supposed to be. But no, it's a very interesting site. But the point is, you get this very sentimental speech by Gunhild that is showing her vulnerability, showing her extreme close-up, and she's talking about Bjorn, who's still united, Scandinavia, and who did it. And you got this thrill, this feeling that really made you feel like, man, this is something Ragnar really didn't do, right? Like, this truly is. Like, this is truly the story living up to the expectations in which this story is set. And I think King of Kings was emotional. I think it was action-packed. I think it was believable. I think it put your characters where you needed them, because you needed vulnerability out of Ivar. And I think the kickoff to this season, man, it might be one of the high points of this series overall. That's all I'll say. Like, it just might be one of the best episodes overall. From there, it goes down, but it doesn't go drastically down. And I'm being fair with it. Just doesn't. It's not as good as it ever was once Bjorn dies. Same as it wasn't as good as once Ragnar dies. But I feel like they brought it to that same level for a moment. And then they kind of knew. They kind of knew they were dealing with the leftovers.
I think there was a lot of filler after that.
It's amazing how much filler there is, right?
There was a lot of filler. And yeah. I mean, again, start off on a high note, and then it kind of fizzled, right? It's like a big fart, right? It starts out with a bang, and then kind of fizzles later on. That's the analogy I would say on this season, okay? And it kind of picked up again in the last two episodes of this season, but I think around a 3/4 mark, this like episodes maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 or in that middle part, it was a blur to me. I really wasn't interested in it as much, you know.
Well,
I mean,
let's talk
but
about
anyway, I mean, I don't know how far you want to get into spoilers here, but you know,
well, like I said,
the middle was pretty
wait
bad.
for me to crash through the barrier. But I want to look at what I sent you earlier because I said we have like 3 central threads, right? Like essentially, we have the Zoom meeting. We have okay. So we have Bjorn / Eric / Kattegat. That's how I'm going to classify these threats, right? So we have Bjorn, who dies in the first episode from getting, mortally wounded. That's the thing. But being mortally wounded, mortal. And
Yes.
yeah,
Usually involves a death.
yeah, it usually involves death by cause of death.
Unless you're Floki.
We'll get to it. Hold on. Jumping the gun. And then we have Eric, who is his, dynamic sidekick who I feel, and I got some criticism about Eric the Red here, not for the actor, but by the story thread. In Kattegat, I tie them together with Gunhild, and I have to even guess, is it Ingrid?
Right? It's Ingrid / Eric. Eric kind of straddles, right?
But Ingrid straddles Ingrid, right? Ingrid is the one that actually makes it past episode 4. She's the queen of Kattegat at the end of the series.
Yeah. I mean,
okay,
Ingrid,
so that should just tell you.
I mean, Ingrid and Eric are also kind of intertwined in that whole Kattegat.
No, I'm just
scene.
looking to get the name right, and
Okay,
I'm a big fan of
Ingrid,
the series.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
very
right.
invested.
It's Ingrid and it's Lucy Martin.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm a big fan of the series. That should tell you that there's a little bit of a problem there because I need to verify that. Okay,
Gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought
you
you
made me. I think I got it. I think I do have it, but I'm like, okay. Okay. And then we have Ivar Vitschek, which you guys are gonna hate that I pronounce it correct, by the way. In the Rus.
I call it Vitzerk.
Yeah, go whatever you want.
That's wrong.
All right. And so we have Ivar Vitserk in the Rus, and then we have Ube. Here's the big spoiler. If you guys have not watched Vikings and you truly, truly don't want any spoilers, I don't know why you're here in the first place, but there's certain things that we just can't talk about for more than 10 minutes that don't involve spoilers. So this is the respect for you. 1, 2, 3, in Floki. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got the Iceland Sagas, which there's about 4 minutes of footage of Iceland in the first episode, which is about 4 minutes too much of Iceland, in my opinion. But then they move on, obviously. So you have Ube, the Floki Iceland, but let's stick right now to the Bjorn, Eric, and Kattegat situation because we have the successful, defense of Kattegat, right? Were you surprised by this? Did you think the Rus were going to take it? How did you feel about this?
No. I mean, I think if the Rus took it, I think that would have been such a historical kind of anomaly, a historical kind of like falsehood that they would probably, the producers in the show probably lose all credibility as as giving you a show that was actually grounded in some form of reality. So, I
kind of disagree with that, to be honest.
We can get to other forms of alternate realities that the show partakes in. But if the Rus did actually take over Kattegat and Norway, subsequently, right, as a consequence, then I think that would have been pretty much it'd been craziness. So no, I did not. I thought it was epic though, the way the Scandinavians or Norwegians,
the Low Countries,
whoever you want to call the peoples of that region, how they won is basically that's pretty epic. With Bjorn, pretty much doing what he did, making his last stand, and then basically inciting the rest of the Norwegians to just go out there like madmen and basically rout the Rus army. I thought that was a very epic battle.
Yeah, I think that it works well for a number of reasons. There was a suspension of disbelief, and there was anticipation about if Bjorn was alive or he wasn't. I was involved in this argument. I made like 3 hours of video about talking about theories and what's valid and what's not, what they show you on screen, looking at cinematography and stuff like that, like what's a valid argument. Because I always was with the whole, he's clearly probably going to die, but to think this. My big thing was the people that were saying it was a dream scene. I had a big beef with that. I'm like, listen, people, he is not going to be okie dokie. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work out. And I'm sorry, but like, that's where your theory gets like convoluted, because like, and I had to go back. I mean, I wasted way too much time on this for the amount of views it got. It got a few thousand, but it was definitely not like 3 hours worth. So yeah, way too much time on it. But I felt like the cinematography clearly depicted, yes, a dream-esque situation where they were mentally battling on the beach, sitting next to each other, and then clearly a stab wound. Now, would he ride? Now, him on a horse doesn't mean he's going to be fine and dandy. As we saw, they strapped it on. I thought it was done really well. I thought that Gunhild, really, you have like the two aspects of, we see this duality and this parallel lives throughout this series in general, and especially throughout this last season. I think that we could definitely make the argument that the season ends up with a parallel and a parallel life and depicted life of Ragnar through Ivar and Ube, right? The two different sides of him. But we also see in Kattegat, we see what? We see Catherine Winnick's, lovely, by the way, thank you for responding to me on Instagram, I'll call you later, her depiction within Ingrid and Gunhild, right? Like, we see the two sides of Lagertha, who could use her sexuality, but also was a shield maiden. I think we see these dual in parallel lives, right? Like, we see like them mirroring each other and them trying to emulate each other, and we see a lot of good story there. The problem is, once Bjorn comes with this like very righteous and awesome comeback that bonds all of Scandinavia is like, what are we gonna do? And it's kind of like, they're gonna rabble against each other, right? So we have to have a conclusion. The rational conclusion, like Omar brings up, is Harold, right? Harold jumps back into the mix here.
Yeah. I mean, somehow he escapes Ruse and basically escapes from the Ruse, right?
Ivar's also wondering this, to be
fair. and of course, they never state actually what happened. You know, how did he escape? You know, off of a heavily guarded, site such as the headquarters of Prince Oleg, right?
Yeah,
they never get into that, but evidently he does escape, and he becomes king somehow.
Yeah, he kind of just pulls it because they're like, hey, this story thread might have needed to end when Bjorn ended. And it didn't. So I feel like there's a little bit of there's limbo. It'd be very insincere for me to say that I didn't feel like that Michael Hirst was banging his head there in the second act of this season, but it was still really well done comparative to most series that are contemporary equivalents, right? Dexter was terrible. They're bringing it back. Game of Thrones, we all know. Hot take, wasn't good.
Season 8.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. What a brave thing to say. But yeah. So it wasn't all that great. But yeah, I feel like they kind of beat their heads against the wall here, because we do have people, and Omar, I know in the chat, was one of these people, and a very educated person on the period, the sagas, and so forth, mythology, meaning, like Saxon tales plus mythology of the Norse spoken tale. And he brought up that he wanted to see more of the Rus, and I actually was against that until I saw more of the Rus. And I think that it faltered out at the end, but I think it really did pay off for Ivar's final, I'm going to call it Ivar's final form, is a very appealing Ivar. He is a Ivar that makes sense to me. He is a vulnerable Ivar. He is a Ivar that shows a common disposition and ability towards mankind. He's not a monster, right? Like, he's not this unbelievable force of power, as well as just being he's not this conundrum. I really liked it. How'd you feel about the playing out of the Rus and what we see once the Rus find out that they failed, and that to come back, and then they have grand plans for Constantinople, as we find out, right? That they're going to siege Constantinople, which I believe they actually do. Did you think they were going to go there? Let me put you on a point there. Did you actually think they were going to go? I did for a minute.
No. I don't think they had enough time to actually go to Constantinople. There was.
That's fair enough, and that's true.
I think it was logistically, in terms of the amount of episodes. I think the Rus, saw the Rus storyline in this season. I think just basically dragged out a bit too long. I wish it was just 4 episodes.
Yeah,
and they would have spent more time in England, but more than like 3 episodes in England instead. But it was. I agree with you in the sense that I think that first half of the season, right, the whole Rus plotline, episodes 1 through 5, was a lot of it was a redemption arc, right, for Ivar. I mean, it showed. I mean, basically, he proved himself to be a human.
Yeah, he's a
No,
he's a person. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of psycho robot like Ultron, right? Basically, I mean, he even had that really fine little finger slash Sweet Robin scene, right?
Yes.
With Igor, which is pretty nice. So,
Pop. Yeah.
Papa, here's a little bird for you. That kind of stuff. No, but it was, it was really good. I mean, it was good for that standpoint, his character development.
I think that what we start to see from here on, from Bjorn on, in the real, again, spoilers, I think that we really start to see what's going to start to happen with the series once we start to see what happens with Gunhild. Because a lot of the characters, and this is a common problem with storytelling, they just don't know what to do with them. Gunhild swims out to sea and dies, right? Because she literally they got to get her out of the story. It's tough. Like, it's like we can either go through all this political nonsense, all this the coup d'etat and all this, all this secrecy and all this stuff that we see a little bit too much of. That was my question of in the Rusland. I thought that Ivar was being played a bit. Did you? I was surprised when it went so smoothly.
You played by Oleg?
Yeah.
In terms of setup? Okay.
No, played by his dual lover. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Princess Katia?
Yeah, I thought that she was like overtly lying, right? Like about like, what do you know? I know you met with the brother, I know you did this. It seemed very overt that like she was like trying to use her sexuality and then, get information from him. And then it turned out to be exactly what it was to be. It was a little bit too on the nose. I thought like there's certainly betrayal here.
I mean, I just think after his failure, I think Oleg just went a little bit psycho and basically didn't know what he was really doing. I don't think he was in a state to actually set up these machinations to try to frame Ivar for anything. I think he was just pure bent on maybe some sort of weird revenge plot against Ivar by trying to pit Vitserk against him, you know, and have one of those people, one of those two kill each other for whatever reason. I think, I mean, I don't think he was, maybe when Princess Katia first approached Ivar, there might have been a sense that he was going to get played by her.
It was so overt, right? Like,
yeah,
it was so on the table, like, oh, what do you? I just had sex with you. By the way, everybody that's watching this channel, my jokes about Ivar's dick. It finally works. It finally works. It finally works. Yeah. And that's actually the case. In most paraplegics, their actual sexual reproduction organs do work. They're unaware of it. But no, I want to be clear about this. The legs working is more of a stretch. But yeah, Ivar's dick, Michael Hurst, is like, his dick finally works. And they did it. But yeah, I think that what we're getting at is that Vitserk and Ivar's relationship is what's really being built here, right? Mm-hmm. Other than the actual, like, what seems to be the surface level plot. Which is kind of like, it seems like there's no way, because it seems like this beautiful woman that is played by the same actress that played, the wife, which betrayed him, is seducing him. And then she's clearly asking, I know you know more, right? Like everything about that just screams betrayal. Ragnar Lothbrok says that in the comments. I was like, no way this is going to go good. Igor, when he meets his uncle, he's like, oh, and they do their little doggy sign. Everything seems so good, and it ends up being fine, and that's fine. But like, I was like, dude, somebody's going to drop the fucking axe here. But like, that wasn't what they were getting at. They were building off of Vitserk and Ivar's relationship there. That's what that was about. It was the subplot. Mm-hmm. It was the meta of it. Yeah. And they were building. I'm fine with it, but I'm just saying. And I guess that's kind of a good subversion of expectations. Sometimes bitches just want to have sex and be truthful.
I mean, it's just in my opinion, though, I think this dragged a little bit too long. And and Oleg, to me, for such a really, really kind of like all powerful, really cool villain and antagonist, in 6A, to just go out like such a chump, such a broken man. In 6B, when he actually finally goes out, it was just kind of sad and it was unfulfilled. It was an unfulfilling death for such a cool villain. He was sort of like the Euron Greyjoy, right? Yeah. Of Vikings, right? Yet expectations for this guy to be such a great villain to go out, in such a great way, and he just goes out like a chump.
Yeah, because that story thread is almost like a vessel for another more potent story thread, which is the brother, the relationship between the two. And I think what you're getting at perfectly accurate and perfectly something that we all felt, because I was like, when's the other foot gonna fall? Like, right? Like, when's it gonna happen? Like, when are we gonna see the other side of this? And like I said, we're all for like very beautiful women, honest, being very stuff like that. We're not like that. That's a good storyline. But yeah, like he's defying expectations. But also we do see, again, I binged this, right? So, and I think that's an interesting concept that we'll get to towards the end here about, what story is when you binge it opposed to week and what the paid for.
Oh, but Justin, I had a question for you though, and this is in respect with respect to Gunhild. Is do you think that the producers or the writers took the easy way out to basically by using that kind of like that Hollywood trope of like the ex-wife, of the despaired ex-wife basically killing herself so she doesn't have to marry somebody that she doesn't love.
So there's not a.
Sorry about the spoilers, guys.
No, we're far past it. I mean, it's on Amazon. If you're here and you're a fan of this channel, I have no restraints. I'm assuming you don't. And thank you to Vikon Targaryen. Can't say, but sending Happy New Year's, everybody. Happy New Year's to you, brother. And,
Happy New Year's.
Yeah. Please be safe and have a good time. I don't know if it's easy route out. I think that more poignant is the stereotypical way out, right? That she's too strong of a woman to depend on a man. So she has to go, right? Like, it's kind of because it's like, oh, we made a really strong female character, and now in order for her to still live, we have to make her submissive to Harold, right? So it's not an easy way out. I think as they do many times in this season, which is fair enough, it's very easy to start a story, very hard to end one. And they didn't drop the ball all that much. I found that death to be the weirdest, as she just swam out to the sea. And again, we were talking before the stream, I was like, what are the qualifications to get into Valhalla? I thought it was battle, but it seems to be willing. But that is also fair to all religions, because we're all like, don't eat fish on Friday unless you forget.
Yeah. And I think we're still undecided about whether or not Gunhild's actually going to go to Valhalla. I mean, isn't suicide kind of a thing where
I don't know,
if you kill yourself, you don't really deserve to go to Valhalla? Isn't that? No,
that's a Christian thing.
It's sort of like the Catholic faith, right? Like if you commit suicide, then you don't go to heaven, right? It's one of those sins that you just can't do, right?
I don't think. Well, they don't have sins. They have proving yourselves and fulfilling fate.
No, but it's the same kind of.
No, I don't think so, because most of them actively, like what you would consider within, let's not get into theology, but you would consider their motivations to be suicidal, right? Like a lot of them, like even from the first member, we were talking about this before, in the first season, the gentleman that's too old, that he just literally wants to go die. So I can't think.
He wants to go die, but die in battle, right? In glory.
But and then we get into the schematics of, is it killing yourself? Like if I go against like 13 armed Navy SEALs with nunchucks, which for the record, I'd win that fight all day long.
I mean, I think it'd be a pretty glorious thing to see, though.
Yeah, but it's like, is that death by cop, death by SEAL? You don't get what I mean? Like, it's like, what are the? Yeah, I think this is a very atheist take on everything, which I kind of appreciate. So yeah, I'm with you. I just think that we kind of play it willy nilly. It's like, oh, she just can't exist. There's so many characters that at a certain point they just can't exist. Like,
I think we're both of us in agreement that after Bjorn's dead, she really had no place anymore in the story in the show. I mean, really.
So, and it's only Michael Hurst that writes this, from my understanding. Like, I've looked into this a lot. I've seen no co-writers ever, and he makes his decisions for better or worse. And I think that it is what it is. It's a weird. I guess she
basically became Porin. Porin, remember her? Nobody ever does, but
So Ragnar Lothbrok says Gunhild maintained her warrior honor and was never going to lower herself to get to the political regulations of the said submit to Harold. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I said it in much more overt terms. You said it much more classy and acceptable. But yeah, they made a very strong female that could never submit to a male rule. That because she would have to play, because Ingrid says it herself, I have to use my sexuality. I'm not a shield maiden. So they're very overt in a lot of this, which you have to be respectful of. And at a certain point, people listen, man. spoiler alert, our own deaths probably aren't going to be that great. Like, it's like, like everybody thinks they're going to have this classy showdown, like, or this like really classy exit stage left, but it is what it is. Like, yeah, a lot of people got to go this season, and sometimes it feels accelerated, and it's weird because it feels like they're pumping the brakes, which we're going to get to. Let's talk a little bit about Ube. Let's talk a little bit about, first off, I love Jordan as Ube because I think he looks the most like Ragnar. They even again right on the nose with it. I really appreciate.
I mean that's what Lagathor said too, right? Yeah. I mean, he looked the most like Ragnar.
Yeah, like he is the casting that's right. Like for Ragnar, for one of his sons, and he is. There's a lot of floating on the sea, but also that shows the tribulations of that type of travel, which would be real. This like, well, it would be if you don't find land.
Yeah,
he's so keen. Well, maybe you're a more skilled navigator than me, Copernicus.
Well, I'm saying to have that go on for 3 episodes is kind of a lot.
It is. It is. There's a lot of buying time. There's a lot of pumping of the brakes, and then there's a lot of just like flooring it, which there's
a lot of like drama, I guess, associated with survival of sea travel, right? Back then, I guess, crossing the Atlantic. So I mean,
fairness, in other seasons, I'd say they do not depict.
Yeah.
Because you get to France in an episode, like once now they pump the brakes like crazy to go to France, but once they sail, they're there. Once they decide to go to England, they're there. So once the Mediterranean, nobody's ever been there. Maybe this map they're there. Yeah, guess what? Yep. It's like quick travel. It's like spawning there, right? Like so, I actually do. I'm gonna give it a Justin buy. I'm gonna give it a mulligan. I'm gonna say it's good. It's actually probably fairly accurate because a lot of them would be, pretty much dehydrated as shit, looking to die.
Oh yeah. I mean, because they had no water, right? Because they basically went to the boat in an emergency, right? Because Cardinal Flatnose became crazy again. He wanted to save his whale. He needed to save his whale. Okay, and evidently, even though Cardinal Flatnose was outnumbered like 20-1 or whatever it was, they still decided to run away into that boat, and go into the ocean.
Oh yeah, and like
saying.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's like, how much whale tail can you consume? Like honestly, he's like, this is my whale. The gods brought it. Edge himself from the WB. No, bravo to him. And I'll look up your name on IMDb. But no, he did a really good job. Omar, they did. I think that the blue lips, the blue fingers, the dryness, the nastiness. I mean, they got a fucking baby on there. They had a kid that I don't remember if it's Bjorn's or Ube's.
Yeah.
And I don't think Bjorn remembers either. That passes. It's all jokes aside, it's not trivial. It would be a real issue. Going through those storms and going through those trials and tribulations are something that I think have been skipped over in the past. And there's definitely, for every Ragnar story, there's probably 100 at least stories of people that just went and died, right?
Yeah.
At least. I mean, we know people are stupid. We're pretty keen to it. They're not all making it there and being all victorious. So yeah, it was definitely a real struggle. I felt it. Was it floating on sunshine for a few episodes? Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, it was just a bit too drawn out for me. Maybe 2 episodes was enough to show that, but to have it go on for so long was quite a bit.
It's the Jaime Lannister Cersei conundrum.
Yeah.
It's the waiting for another person to catch up to your, right? Like the counterparts are waiting to finish off because they didn't have enough. Now, maybe arguably you could have done more but it's obviously North America once they find it. I've done more with the whale. How much that whale meat is gonna go bad? By the way, Flat.
Oh yeah, no. Okay, well, I mean, they are in Greenland, right? So probably it's pretty cold there, so it may stay for a while. But I mean, eventually they're gonna need to process it and smoke the meat, right, for it to preserve. And it seemed like Cardinal Flatnose had no intentions of actually cutting it up and processing it and smoking the meat, right?
No.
Whatsoever.
No, not at all. My camera's fine. I had the white card it. But not whatsoever. He's not a rational man, I would say.
Yeah.
I'd say he's quite irritable. I think he's quick to act. He wanted that whale tail though. He wanted it clearly went up on his side. Which also brings up like a little bit of like, the laws. We're not going to get political, but like how we rule the world and how we take new things, or we go to new places with old ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, we see the idea of like leaving the madman standing on top of the whale. Wonder what? I bet he's a fat cat now. I bet he has so much. First off, can't you make ink, or is that octopus? Regardless, get oil.
I think octopus is the one with the ink.
Doesn't matter about ink, but all I'm gonna say is he's a fat cat. It worked out for Flatnose, and he's a fat cat. He's doing better than all of you, all of us. He's doing great. His whole lineage way grander than Ragnar's and all that. They're all talking about Flatnose, the whale tail. He's the real white whale. All right, he's got it going on. Congratulations to him.
Hey, but Justin, to be serious though, I mean,
I was serious about that.
No. No. To be really serious though, is that I think the producers the writers are actually trying to make a point here because this whole idea of ownership, right, and property, right, was old customs, old laws, right, in their culture. And then when you go to North America and see how the natives live, they don't have that sort of, identity about property and ownership. It's for the tribe, right? It's not, there's never a fight about it being, the whale landing on my side of the river, so it's mine, right? It's for the good of everyone. I think they're trying to show that the difference between the cultures in relation to sort of like property laws.
No, absolutely. That's a very valuable and insightful takeaway there, because it is, what is it said? What is it? Verbatim, but it is, he said, you're welcome here. You're welcome to be here. Welcome to occupy, I believe is said by one of the natives.
No, you're not welcome to possess.
Yes.
But you're welcome here. Not
Thank
welcome
you.
To possess.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's what you're getting. No, that's a very...
Yeah. Kato was trying to possess, right? Because that's Scandinavian law, right? It's Viking law.
This is mine.
Those
now.
laws don't
I
exist.
Take it. And then Floki has gone, spoiler alert, a mountain fell on him.
I think he became a hippie, essentially.
Yeah, but, he... ownership and all of this, and these are things that we do deal. There's obviously pretty overt statement being made by Hearst here. Is him, that's the writer. I like it. I like it a lot. That, hey, you're welcome to live here along with us. You're not welcome to own own us, and that isn't great for our ancestors, but we can all pave our own ways.
I mean the colonists, the Western European colonists didn't really agree with that sentiment whatsoever, so
and it's a difference. And there's a great thing by Uday, right, is an interesting character played by Ray Stevenson, because he is somebody that we're unsure of his actual background, right? He lies about it. He was once a Viragian. Doesn't say Viragian, but what he's talking about is a Viragian guard. If you went east, then you were a Viragian. If you went as a Scandinavian west, you went a Viking. So a Viking is not it's fine. I'm not trying to be that guy, but that is what it is. You would be a Viragian guard in Byzantium, and he claims to be one of these. But he also claims to know about Ragnar, and he claims like he's there for Christian ritual, he's there for Scandinavian and pagan ritual, and he kind of plays both sides of the fence. And he says to Ube, he pretty much poses him with the same question Ragnar was posed with, but he poses it not in an occupied, in a land in which nobody wishes to occupy by possession, but occupy by happiness, by self, right? By not to be poetic about it, but truly to just live on. Like Floki says, the earth in the world is, you need to take care of it and just be happy, flourish with it. And he's posed with that question of, are you going to bring your old ways to this new place? Why would you? Why is that applicable? You know what I mean? Which are very valid, existential and ideological questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that was Floki's motivation behind going to Iceland in the first place, right? Was to settle down and basically start over, essentially, with this Iceland colony, and of course, Kato Flatnose had to wreck that as well. So,
yeah, it's this conscious we talked a little bit about this because Milt is, and I think fairly early against Floki, still walking around because Milt is a geophysicist in a mountain. You don't need to be one. To figure out, you don't need to be one to figure out that a mountain falling on somebody shouldn't have them go. I do cite that Hearst has cited, which isn't the best argument. I'm being fair here. That 100 Years of Solitude is a big inspiration for the story where you have magical realism, meaning you have people like the seer, and then Floki kind of turns into a seer-like figure. You have this inadvertently injected magical aspects of it in there, which I'm with Mel. I don't think that they should have had a mountain fall out in the sky. Like,
exactly.
I'm not, but I'm saying, but I said in the live stream after it by myself, drunk a little bit drunk. But I was like, what if he lives? I only want him to show up in the last 1 or 2 episodes. And that's what it did. So I'm going to stick by my word. And it is what it is.
If they only showed Floki at the end just looking like aghast that he found a cross, right, in that cave in Iceland, and things were shaking around, right? And then they cut that scene altogether. I've been great, but they actually showed like heavy rocks falling on him. All right, especially so he survives with heavy rocks falling off him, but Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister, die by a couple of bricks falling on them. Oh no! Right.
So yeah, it doesn't take
I'm just saying.
It doesn't take a man with his education to tell you this, but to be fair, he does have the education where he literally studies topography, right? Is that the right way to pronounce it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's geology, yeah. But
but we all understand that rocks will kill you. And
exactly, heavy rocks will kill you.
If this roof fell on me, I'd die, yeah. I don't know, I'm pretty damn tough. But yeah, so I'm with you on that. But I think there is a beautiful sentiment, and there's a mirroring. As we get past Bjorn, we move into what I'm going to call the bloodletting. And this is on the spot of the season, where you got to just get people out of the way, right? They got to get them out of the way. Sometimes, like a lot of pumping to the brakes when we talk about the sea travel. Yeah, the trials and tribulation of traversing the known world. Why don't you Copernicus your way to the back of the line, mother? Like this is some real shit that you got to deal with. But at the same time, there's a lot of pumping the brakes, and then it's just like fucking hot rodding it once they get there, right? Like that's what it feels like. And I do equate this to a second act issue. The third act is always the hardest to really seal the deal on. I found it odd. I'd never would have predicted, never did predict that they would have went back, meaning Vitserk and Ivar, to Kattegat. That would seem irrational. It was. But also have a little bit of like Eric the Red. I thought they were going to do something with him that made sense because we know that Eric Leifison is going to be a part of the Valhalla series coming up by Hearst. So like I thought that's his father. So like they did bring up like all of the trifles they had, and I don't expect them totally historically accurate, but I didn't expect him to go from this man that was by Bjorn's side and being like a rationalist, just being a monster. And I found that hard to buy into. I also find it hard to buy into that Harold was going to come in, because I did predict that he was going to become king of all of Scandinavia, because in sagas and in historical accounts there is a man named Finehair that was known as that. So
he was the king.
We saw that. So they fulfill that, but then they kind of like fulfill it and throw it under the bus. The one thing, and I forgot to connect it at the very last moment of our Roos conversation, just tagging onto that. Oleg's downfall, I didn't like the way he fell, but the down of the fall, meaning his actual progression down, I liked a lot, because we saw with is it Oleg or Olaf?
Olaf, right? King Olaf? Are you talking about the horizontally challenged king?
Yes.
Okay.
Who gets burned.
Exactly.
He doesn't give any agency.
No.
He doesn't give any. He lets them burn him.
Yeah, I mean, he basically accepts it.
Yeah.
In fact, I think, remember that scene where, they were told what their fates would be? Olaf thinks he got off lucky, right? He's the one that dies. He was the lucky one.
Yeah, and he shows this sense of agency over self, and in actual accounts, I know that he was the one, because he owns a part of Jutland that's like the largest part in the histories, and he was the one that actually turned Christian. Which there's a lot of nods to actual historical accounts. I'll try to do a video. I can't promise it on this. I'm sure King McKay will do a better job of actually like laying out what happened. But there was this Christian. This convert, right? The pagan convert to Christianity, in which Ingrid speaks of during the same about time, because it's kind of hard to tell where the time is during this. Like it could be 2 to 3 weeks, but also we have to believe it has to be like 2 to 3 years in some aspects with Ivar and Vitserk. So we hear about a Scandinavian king that's pagan that turns to Christianity. Well, that actually was Olaf. Like that actually was him. Like he was the one that brought Christianity to the Norse and all that. And we see a little bit of that in his diatribes and his rants and all that. But we see the slow fall of Oleg, right? Like of Scandinavia, and then the quick fall of him. It seems to work out a little bit too much like all thumbs up. It's everything went a little bit too much Millhouse, right? Everything turned up a little bit too much Millhouse. Are you familiar with the Simpson reference?
Yeah.
Everything's turning up Millhouse.
Everyone's gone Millhouse. Right?
Everything turns up Millhouse.
Everything's done gone Millhouse. Yeah.
But the lead up to it, in all fairness, I don't know if I'm conveying it all that well, but I think it wasn't all that bad because you can see his frustration. You can see him viewing, Igor looking to Ivar, right? You can see him losing agency and control over this because these are two uncles of a prince. These aren't two princes. These are two uncles of a prince. They are looking to have control over him. And it turned out the guy that's kind of a dork that does this, he ends up winning. But I think that Oleg, he loses agency over his situation in a fairly realistic way.
Yeah. I mean, some people may say that the whole betrayal thing was kind of unrealistic, but I think you have to look at who this person was, right? She was like a double agent, essentially, right? She was actually working for Prince Dur and his household, right?
I know.
Dur was the name.
I know what it was. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Prince Dur, yeah.
Nope,
The guy
that
looked like a dog, right?
Yeah.
The guy that was a dog
Yeah.
for a couple of seasons. Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at it that way, the schemes and the machinations of Kiev, Rus politics,
Careful
was actually brought to bear, kind of in this whole plot line, with the betrayals and everything else, and the double agents and everything else going on. So, I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. I think that was probably,
would it be
it makes a good story.
Would it be fair to say that it kind of speaks to a lot of the things, except for Ivar, our final point, but isn't it fair to say that we kind of like how they got there, not how they went out with it, for multiple threads?
For Ivar?
For a lot of people. We're just talking about in general. We kind of like, because we're just talking about the foreshadowing. We're just going off the cuff here, guys. But
sure.
Doesn't it seem like we kind of like how they got there? Maybe one shouldn't have swam out to death. Maybe, right? Which is better than we don't like how they got there, but we like how it ended. I think it's better that we don't like how it ended.
Yeah.
Because, the way in which it ended, right? Because we all knew that needs to happen.
Yeah. I mean, the ascension, right, of these main characters is always going to be the hook, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's the hook, right?
That's the story. The struggle is the story. Yeah. The end cap is the end
death
cap.
Is kind of like, okay, he died, but if you're so emotionally invested in these characters, you do want to want to see that character have a decent death, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not
as opposed to being shot. It's supposed to be shot in the heart by a 9-year-old kid, right? Who can barely hold up a sword, much less draw a bow and arrow, probably.
But he showed agency, yeah, right. Like he did it. Like no, and it's to observe, but it's fair. It's a fair, because I don't want to shit on it, because to be honest, I'm pretty happy with this last season. Honestly, I'm more happy with the way they ended this series with the last 3 seasons. And that's a hard thing to do. Michael Hirst really showed some chops and really gives us a definite surge of I would say confidence towards Valhalla, in which we have Omar, who I said is a very educated man. I hope I don't money. I'm gonna check those Reddit things. By the way, that mention of Dane King converting was a setup for Valhalla. Ingrid becoming queen is to preserve the old way of the gods, and she sends out assassins to have that converted king killed. Okay. Yeah, so this is again the struggle between the old and the new, right? So we see, spoiler alert, Ube kind of find a middle ground with that, but we also see Ivar kind of. I think I texted you, right, Mel? And I was like, I just think Michael Hirst at this point, this is when I was watching his head against the wall. I'd already taken, I was like, he's like banging his head against the wall thinking, I need to get to the third act with these guys. How do I get him to England? It wasn't all that sold and how they got him to England. Once they did, I enjoyed it, but I will say that would mainly be my the ending of it, is that could have been handled better.
Yeah, I mean,
Fair?
I think that that part, in between when Ivar and Visser basically leave Roost and go back to the Kattegat, and then go to England,
Yeah.
was very, very rushed. It all happened within an episode, and basically, I mean, even when they prepared for war and battle in English, that was very, very rushed too. I wish they had one more episode. This is why I hope. It's why I would prefer Roost ending like an episode 4, and then having that one episode to basically lay the foundation for the whole English invasion, right?
Yeah, especially because I don't remember if it's 4 or 5, but that's the episode where they literally, it's very overt, where they're like, I don't know why I'm here. And I feel
Yeah,
like that's him. He's like,
yeah,
with his pen, he's like, I don't
yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah,
know
yeah,
why.
yeah.
That's when I messaged you. And he's like, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like, how do
Yeah.
I get him there?
Yeah, and then the Sir goes, oh yeah, but the has always been in your pocket, and he pulls out his chest piece, right? It's like,
Yeah.
come on, dude. It's like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, we get it. Okay, we get where you want to go now.
Oh, it's bullshit. Yeah. Oh, that's it. It's bullshit. Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
but once they get there, and I do have some critiques about Alfred. They show his weakness. And
Yes.
Alfred was known to be plagued by many weaknesses of the flesh. I would say, like, meaning like he physically weak, but he's spiritually strong. That's how he's always did. There's a story about him baking cakes that didn't turn out all that great. I used to. But you get what I mean. Like, he was known to be strong. Like, he could only eat gruel because he had like probably colitis.
He could have had just bad GERD or just bad.
Yeah, he had to sit on a
gas.
pillow. Yeah, which is
No,
a
no,
real
no, it was
issue.
reflux, acid reflux. I mean,
Which is a real thing. I have Crohn's.
yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah. But like there's a lot of like old. Again, we have all these analogies and adages, right? In the aftermath to show a man that is clearly a spiritual man. They want to make seem like a warrior, but he wasn't. Like it almost seems like they're going to craft this character, not the person, like to be a spiritually strong person that overcomes his physical weaknesses. So I'm not dismissing, if that makes any sense, like that they just add on a lot of like physical weaknesses to him and then say, but he was so strong still, right? Because he's strong in spirit, but like you see him, so that's kind of like thrown on us because again, there's no Alfred, and them going back there. The last time we were there, Ube did what Ragnar wanted. And he went against the Black Danes.
Yeah.
He fought one of them. He threw axes at Alfred. And if you've ever learned how to fight, that's how fighting happens. People throw axes at you, and you'll learn how to be a good fighter. Totally legit. And then, but like, there's no questioning.
If you survive.
But like, I thought there should have been like the same with Ragnar. Like, he found out by that dude that came up to me. He's like, "Hey, guess what? Your settlement failed." And Ragnar's like, "Oh, did it? Come over here." And choked him to death.
Yeah,
That's what you
choked him to
fucking do when somebody comes and tells you things you don't want to hear. Remember that? Downvotes. I'll fucking find you. Yeah, like there was no like discussion of like what happened with that land. It was just like, let's just go back there and fuck shit up.
I mean, yeah, that's what I say. It happened way too fast. I mean, and what I mean, if you want to go touch on Alfred, I had some issues with Alfred's character because at the end of 5A, at the end of 5A, in which you last saw Alfred, I mean, Alfred was ascending into becoming this very strong king, this very great king. And now the first time we see Alfred here, he's praying in the church, which is great. But then afterwards, he's getting yelled at by his wife, for basically succumbing to like every time the Vikings do something, he always succumbs to them, basically compromises with them, stuff like that. And then, it's just him and a nagging wife. Essentially, is basically his character development in this, in this season. And I think we lost a bit of Alfred's edge. Essentially, the momentum or the inertia of his ascension was pretty much snipped. Essentially, it was taken out. It was pretty much gone.
But isn't that present in all stories of Alfred, that his wife is like, she has like this terrible nagging hag?
Well, yeah. In the Last Kingdom, right? Ellsworth is also portrayed as being like this very controlling person, right, and things like that. But Alfred had his own mind in the Last Kingdom. In this season on Vikings, we didn't have enough time for him to actually show his own mettle and his own mind for ruling. He just basically acquiesced, if you will, to his wife, especially at the end, right? Which was probably the right decision, but still, it was just him fighting against his wife and him, basically hoping and praying, to God that, they would overcome the Vikings. And
What I think,
there just wasn't enough time to build up
yes,
England. Okay. And again, I wish there was one more episode to build up everything, to build the backstory, as you were saying, alluded to build up the story about whatever happened to that settlement in East Anglia, right? That Ube fought so hard for.
which Danelaw, that in the real sagas, you would have Gunhild and Ube, who is just like a lackey, so it's not as romantic. But there definitely was East Anglia was what was under what was known as Danelaw. And what happens is we see kind of like a little bit of recreationalist history here, because what we see here is what, and I agree with you. So what they're alluding at is that the wife is mad at him because he's willing to leave his stronghold, right? But he says that Wessex, meaning England, is an idea. It's me. I hold that idea because that's my philosophy. That's my ideology, right? And that actually did happen. Like, they attacked there in Christmas time, and I can't remember where. It might have been Kent. I don't remember. I always forget. It's the same thing. I've forgotten this on like 7 live streams. I don't think I ever knew it, to be fair, if I forgot it on 7 live streams. But I always forget where Gunhild attacks Alfred at. But he does need to leave, and he goes to the bogs, like he goes to the marshlands, and he is shamed for it. But then he calls upon the Saxon, all of the armies and, various strongholds and so forth, and they fight back against the Danes. But they break their truce. The Danes break the truce, in which I thought was really well set up by Ube, even with the exception of it wasn't really him that did it, but who cares at this point? There was one set, so like that should have been something, because that was a really like a good point of the story, in my opinion, for Ube especially, that he fulfilled what his father wanted. He said, "This is our land," and that's what Danelaw was. They had their own judges, they had their own legal system, their own taxes, and they knew their borders. That's East Anglia, and now they kind of just like what happened there? Like, I think it could have been, this is where I say it's easy to insert something from history in here. It's easy to say that they have either, like they did before, whether you want to just pin it on the English or you want to pin it on the Danes, who cares? Say somebody violated something. Because I didn't catch that. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't catch that. Like, what is the reason for your invasion? Because they keep praying at masses arbitrarily that they hope the Danes don't come back. That wouldn't have been the case at this point. They would have been assimilating already.
Yeah. And also somebody made, I think Alfred or somebody in this court made some sort of assertion that, they were going to basically, the Vikings were going to come in and try to rile up the local populace of Danes to join their army. And we never saw any of that. No. That was never expounded upon. And that is a very critical point in terms of a critical thing that the Vikings need, the invading army needs, right, is to get that local populace on their side, right? Because that's really, really, it's really heavy populace, right? There's a lot of people there, to grow their army, and we never see anything come out of that. And I wish there was more of the, the political side of what really happened, with the settled Danes that were already living in England in that time.
Supposedly, I think the real crutch comes here. Is because supposedly, I don't think that Hearst would be willing to go with what history supposedly, and I'm using it loosely because let's face it, everybody assimilated fairly quickly after this, about 100 years after. Yeah,
so they became Christians really quick.
Yeah, so the Christian story will be the story, but supposedly they attacked during Christmas, the holiday. And this is where they kind of loosely, you can tell they're aware of it, right? I mean, of course he is. He has expositions. Like, he actually, pays for archaeological digs. Like, Hearst isn't an idiot. Like, he knows the real history better than I do. Probably better than all of us, right? Like, he's not a fucking fool, but he's telling his story. So he wants to say a little something politically. He wants to say a little something about historical accounts, and he wants to have that in there. But he doesn't really touch it, because the thing is, I don't think he wants to say Alfred violated a term, because in his mind, this is a hypothetical, I'm just gonna say Michael Hearst probably doesn't believe Alfred did, right? Like, his mind, he probably didn't. The tell is that Gunhild goes during Christmas time and he catches him off guards and he pushes him, and this shows the resilience, and this is very much so conveyed within the story, but through a different medium. This is conveyed with him saying, I won't let you do the same thing that my wife keeps bitching me about you guys saying, right? Like, all jokes aside, but this is conveyed in the same way of him being in the marshes, right? Like, this is him doing the same thing of refusing to have any sort of a treaty, any sort of a peace, any sort of a, whatever deal. He's saying, fuck you, like, I'm going to go and I'm going to fight. We're going to fight, and somebody's going to finally win, because we keep doing these treatises that end up being bullshit, and one person goes against it. So we get the sentiment of what happened. But like, why they went there when there would be such, like, that's what I don't like. I don't like the dismissal of other things that we were attached to be fair. Ube doing that fight against the Black Dane and securing that land for Alfred was a big deal. Headman died. That is the downfall of Lagatha. Judith falls after that. Like, that is a big story point. That is the end of their second act. And then they fall in their third. So it's like there's a total dismissal of what happened before. And now we just have this arbitrary, let's go fuck England up because I got a chess piece. Kind of odd.
Yeah. Again, I just wish they had one more episode to lay the foundation of all this. I mean, but it didn't happen,
Yeah, and in fairness, Ivar is in Ireland at this time, and he's not there. But at the same point, like,
yeah. And then Uba actually dies before the Battle of Eddington, which is what they showed in the. So a lot of stuff is not right.
We're not trying to go by the accounts, but you can still tell that they're going by the sentiment of the accounts. That's what I'm getting at. Like, that you have a settlement that is, under what's called Dane law, and like I said, that's the judges, that's everything, that the taxes, everything is done by them. It is supposedly, through the history and the accounts that we have now, the Danes, in which violate that. They're in Christmas time. And they go after. Alfred is forced to abandon his strongholds, which is a big problem, right? Because you're a king. Or you're a king if you don't have a castle.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you king of?
Yeah,
but the idea, it's like Winston Churchill once said, he's like, about communism, it's an idea that you can't kill, right? Like, it's there, all jokes aside.
Okay, yeah. So the real story is that, Alfred basically hides out in the freaking swamps, right?
Yes, he does.
But they already used that with Alfred's dad hiding out in the freaking swamps after York was taken over. Right? No, actually, right before York was taken over. No, after King Egbert dies, right? They out in the swamps, so they can't use the same swamps again, obviously.
No, they can't.
So they go straight into battle, right? So we miss all that. This season.
But it's this unwillingness to succumb to any sort of a treatise, right? Like any sort of a agreement under people who just don't care, because it's. But then we see, spoiler alert, that we see the other side of Ivar. The Ragnar is Ivar half Ube, pretty much at the end of the season. Ube is the traveler
with a little bit of Vitsirk in there.
Yeah, well,
the craziness,
the drug addict,
or the conflicted Ragnar is Vitsirk.
He's all the in between. Yeah, and you see the old ways and you see the new ways prevail at the end of this. So I'm not hating the way it happened. At the end, I think it was a little bit rushed. I think I would have liked to see a transitional period, because why are they talking about the Danes? Because they're pretty much like retconning what happened 2 seasons ago. Get what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be over, because I don't ever hold this story to a historical account, because it never has abided by one.
Yes, I think, I we are going to throw away all pretense of this show.
But you need the
adhering
whole,
to any historical fact whatsoever.
But you do need the whole. In fairness, though, you need the whole. Jokes aside, you need to hold to what you did, the story you told. And the story you told, you settled a large portion of England.
The writers, yeah, that's what they did. That's what they said.
One guy, the large portion, the whole east side, to that. So it's like you can't you
can't just ignore it and have it go
you
away.
Made it happen. We're not even because it wasn't done in a historical way. I'm not trying to be a prick about it. I'm just saying, like, that was the one thing I didn't like. I did like the Ivar. I felt like I didn't want Ivar to die. And the funny thing about Vitchek is, and we'll close it up in a minute here or in a few minutes, but man, you're right. Like, he is such a limbo character, right? Yeah. But man, do I feel for him. Not only is he a good actor, his physicality is fantastic for his size. He has to be a smaller guy, but he holds it up. Like, he really holds the physicality up well. Mm-hmm. Does well in those scenes. Like, he's probably smaller than I am. Like, I think they got rid of Sigurd because, I heard they got rid of him because he was dickhead on set, but he was also like, that guy looked 30 pounds lighter than him. I was like, who are these new Vikings? Like, they're like 110, like, not to be a dick, but you had like Rollo, who's like got the axe that like has a
Elf.
Yeah, like, you know, like the waves, the tide is going by, like, you know, the weight of Rollo's axe. He's so big, like, you know what I mean? He's like holding people up, and everybody looks like One Eye by the end of the series. Like, Sigurd is like about this big, in Vitchek. But no, I think that actor does a really good job. I think his addiction was a part of Ragnar that we hated for rightful reasons, but it's something that's able to be explored, right?
So Omar in the chat, he wants to talk about like Vitzer going beast mode into battle. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it shows him killing a bunch of people, you know, and then it kind of calls into question, like, who is the best fighter of all Ragnar's sons, right? So Bjorn should be the best fighter, right? I think it's universally accepted that Bjorn is probably the best fighter of all Ragnar's sons, but maybe Fitzurg is second, because I mean we saw Ube get knocked down by one of the guys protecting the whale in Iceland. So
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird, because Ube was supposed to be a pretty good fighter. And then Sigurd, well, I mean, he'd like to throw axes, but he died. So anyway, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, he went back to Trailer Park Boys after that.
He had a really nice mullet, though, right?
He was a terrible human being.
Yeah, Sigurd did have a good mullet.
Who hired him? Somebody that owed meth money? I don't know. Yeah, but he was terrible. Costume Co. Heidi, Happy New Year to you. Mm-hmm. Happy Canadian New Year. Yeah. I think that, it's a valid point. I think that Visser, he really, besides Alexander Ludwig, plays Bjorn, he did the best job, but Ube's up there with him for depicting the physicality of it. But for the size of, because Visser's not a big dude. Like, even you can tell, like, against other actors. And
he's very slim. He's very slender.
Yes. And if anybody's ever met a star, you'll realize that they have really big heads. Heidi, Costume Co., you worked on sets, they are short. A leading man is 5'10" at best. Not saying 5'10" is short, but they look like they're 6'4" on camera, because everybody else around them is like a fucking they're fucking small
say the
people.
Say the word.
Yeah, they're small fucking people, man. Like, I'm just saying, like, I probably look a lot bigger than Vitzerk looks, like, but he handles the physicality well, and you can tell he handles it well because they use him a lot, right? Mm-hmm. They use him a lot for these scenes, and there's been a tendency to use the best people. Lagatha, Kristen Winnick, future wife. She was not that that's a real thing. Taekwondo is still, whatever it is, what it is. But she owned like a bunch of karate studios when she was 16. She's at least physically able. Get what I mean? Like, she is very good in those scenes. And they used people. Clive Owen or Shredden, who played Rollo, he was a kickboxer. So they use these people that can really be physical, obviously, because you need these people to go and do things. So that actor, did he sound a little bit like a pirate to you when he says Ivar? He sounds very Irish to me, even though he's not. He says Ivar, like that. Do you get that? Like, he's like, listen here.
I don't know, man. You didn't pay attention to that. No,
every time he says Ivar, Vitchek sounds like he's like fucking a pirate or he's Irish. Like, but besides that, no, it's weird, man. I don't know. Yeah, every single time I'm like, what the fuck? He's that's what you think they're Ivar. Like, he says it like that. Like, it comes out, but he's Scandinavian. Him and Jordan are good friends. But yeah, I would put it up between him and Ube.
Yeah. Wasn't his name Ilso something, right? Or Marco Ilso, right? Or something like that.
A name that I don't know how to pronounce.
Yeah. But at the end, I mean, do we have enough time? Because I think we didn't discuss the last big point of this season, and that was basically Ube's and expedition to North America and to meet up with the Native Americans. I thought it was very was very critical, especially.
Let's talk about 25% of the story.
Yeah. I mean,
well, at the end, actually 50%. Yeah.
But it was the introduction, right? It was the introduction to the new ways, right? And I think these new ways were pretty much what the Vikings. It's probably a better natural evolution of the Viking culture, right? To accept these new ways versus accepting Christianity, right? Which was new ways that they did not accept one bit, right? Yeah. And historically, they did, right? Historically, they did, but in the show, right? they didn't. So
that's interesting, because Vikings did assimilate very quickly.
Yeah.
Within one generation, there are people. I mean, because hey, give me a nice lady. Better farmland. Hey, people assimilate very quickly, but milk's printing up
very easily. Yeah,
but this is a new land in which neither exists. So this is like
and this whole thing that we talked about earlier about the property, right? Law of property, the concept of property and ownership, right, doesn't exist in this new land. And I think that's very, very important to talk about because, Ube, Torvi, and Other, right? They actually revel in this, right? They love this, right? That none of this BS is going around, Except and the only person that doesn't like this is that one dude, right? Nod was his name.
Yeah.
He just liked gold for whatever reason because
I don't know.
Evidently he didn't understand that gold meant nothing, right? In the new land. So if he had like a hoard of gold, what can he get out of it? Nothing. So, in this new land.
Well, they seem to be, at least in fairness to Nad, who I'm going to call. I know that's wrong, but I'm just going to call him Nad because he's Nad. Gold is something that historically people or I guess you're the goddamn geophysicist. So, like, why is
still,
it? Is because it's a precious like what is it? Like this is a real question.
Okay. Gold is first of all, it's precious, but it's also very ductile and easily malleable, right? You can actually make very nice ornaments out of it and jewelry out of it, right? So it's a very soft metal. Okay, so that's why you can bite into it, right? As opposed to fool's gold, which is pyrite, which is
right
really
up
hard.
the things
Or
you
break
say,
your teeth.
Because I don't know. Like, right is not like my natural.
So it's very pretty and it's very easy to work with, and jewelers and people love that stuff.
It does it not corrode easily?
No, it doesn't corrode at all. That's why you have fillings.
Okay.
Okay.
So
it's resistant, right, to any kind of acids in your mouth and things like that. So it's a good metal.
It's shiny and it doesn't stop being shiny.
Yes, and it's easy to work with, right? You can make a lot of jewelry. It's very, very easy to work with. So it's
it always seems abstract to me.
Low melting
point, we were like, ooh, gold. I'm like, ooh,
and it's pretty,
coal,
right?
Yeah,
it's
coal. There's pretty, coal over there. Okay. So we have a situation in which we deal with. I'd say there's even an injection of the issues with what we face today, globalization, right? Like of these imaginary lines and Otur, I'm going to call him Utur, or I'm going to get it right on one of them. But he says to him, he goes, you want to abide by the same rules as old in a new place. How sad, right?
Yeah, it is sad.
And it is sad. I agree with that. These are invisible lines in which we paint, and there's a respect for the place in which we live in, meaning thus the causality of that, call me crazy, but would be the respect for those that live in said land, right? So I'm all for it. Like, I don't like borders. I don't like it at all. I think it's ridiculous, especially in a digital age, but I think they are speaking to this, and I think this is a very relevant thread because they don't give us what we're wanting because we want this fuck to get Blood Eagle. Let's face it. We want him to. We're like, oh,
yeah. And that was probably the last depiction of the old ways that we're ever going to see, right?
Yeah. We're all, I was eating raw meat in my bed. I was like, there's blood everywhere. It was disgusting. And I was like, and then he decides not to. He says, you're not meant for Valhalla. He slits an old nutnad's throat and he takes him down. But there is a certain sense of a new beginning.
Exactly.
But are we going to carry on these old ways? Because everybody goes these places where they have predisposed feelings about everything they do and about how everything should work, and they want more farmland, they want more of this, and a whale goes over your chalk line and it's yours and you're willing to give up your whole family for it, and it's pretty frivolous in the hindsight. So I think hers is making a point to make a statement here about what we do as human beings and about the whole fight between the Christian, the pagan, but not just that, the fight within, the internal struggle, right? Not to get all sappy about it, but the struggle within of what we need. A structure. We need this internal babysitter to look to, right? We're always looking for somebody to tell us what's right, and we can't disobey this, we can't disobey that, and we're never actually looking to do what's advantageous. Like, people don't starve because there's not enough food. They starve because it's not profitable to feed them, right? Like, this is an ongoing issue, and this is something that's relevant, and I think hers is taking a good shot here at what's going on right now. And I think that it's very relevant, it's very timely, sadly, and I think that it ends very as much as I wanted that Blood Eagle, man, I just watched Ayla again because Ayla wasn't meant for Valhalla. Ayla wasn't meant for Valhalla. What do you
I didn't want to see it because Nad was he was weak, dude. I mean, he didn't deserve
He could have took
Valhalla. I mean,
but Ayla, like that's part of the fun. Like I mean, like I never thought of this.
well,
like,
yeah, but Ayla was a freaking enemy, right? Of course, they wanted to Blood Eagle him.
But the reason is he says Valhalla isn't for you, meaning because like the whole point of a Blood Eagle is like if you don't like scream, like how like
exactly you go to Valhalla. Yeah. But I mean, they knew Ayla was going to scream.
Yeah, this bullshit,
I mean, they knew he was going to scream because he was such a little coward, right? So,
that's like it's just another. Excuse
he wasn't a coward.
He
was just like a really mean person that deserved to die.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm not gonna waterboard you. You're not meant for this. Yeah, like it's
but,
not great. But
so
I think it's him letting go of the past in many ways. Him saying, this is one of my own that I need to get rid of out of respect for you guys because they said this is one of your people, so you need to deal with them. Because when we said you're welcome here, you are welcome to be here, not welcome to own it, like you said before. So then he needs to kill him, right, Milt? But he doesn't need to do it in this pagan way, right? Like he doesn't need to abide by. He doesn't need to write it with a god. He needs to write it with himself.
And also, I mean, maybe he understood that the Blood Eagle is a pretty savage process. You have to agree, right? I mean, you would think. I mean, it may turn off the locals, if they had to witness a Blood Eagle. Okay? It may turn them off just a little bit.
I would argue against that point.
Looking at that.
No, I would argue against that point because I think the brutality in which you showed to your own would show nothing but loyalty to them. Right? No, all jokes aside.
Sure.
I think. Listen, I'm with you on it's fucked up, man. But like I'm saying, the point of him not doing it in the story. It's him just saying, we need to get rid of you, you fucked up. But I am not going to, there is something to be said for, I'm not trying to appease a god. I'm trying to do what's right. Like, and maybe, I guess it's weird saying that's murder, but like at the same time, this guy killed somebody. We're going to get rid of him. We're not sticking to this old system. We'll get a new fucked up one. It'll be screwed up too, but blah, blah, blah. Like it's agency over spirit, self, and nation. And I like it. I like it a lot. Like I'm with you, dude. But trust me, you torture that fucker, they'd be all about it. I'd be all about it. Yeah.
Here's a question to you: Do you think the new Floki would have? Do you think the new Floki agreed with that decision by Ube not to Blood Eagle him?
Who are you to ask me what I think?
Hey, man, I'm just getting your opinion. Do you think the new Floki would have agreed? Because personally, I think he would have agreed. Because I think Floki, I think Floki was totally done with the old ways.
Says that. Like Floki says that. He goes, "Who am I?"
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's done with the old ways.
He says, "I don't care what you think." He goes, "If I don't care what you think, I think then I'm not going to answer." Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I mean, Floki doesn't. He doesn't believe in the gods anymore. He thinks probably there are gods out there, but he admits that he's a pissant now. He doesn't care. I mean, what
what story does he tell on the trees? He tells their story.
Yeah, it's like Floki said, it's not his problem anymore. It's not his problem to wonder what the will of the gods is. I mean, just live, right?
And yes, exactly. And he carves their story into the trees.
Yep.
Which he can see inside of, like from the very first, you can tell the blank wood and all that.
Yeah, like a werewood.
There you go. Without the hive mind, but there is a truth to what Floki believes. Because he believes in telling their story, and I think he believes in telling it for better or worse, to be honest. You can tell that he's forgetting parts of it that he hasn't really forgot. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, Tyr can tell you this, oh, Tyr can tell you that. But I really like that sentiment about him. Like, I think that you nailed it, to be honest with you. Like, he definitely was happy with it. Doesn't, listen, Floki is like he is like the main guy. Like the big pusher of the pagan way, right? Like throughout the whole series.
Yep.
Until he goes and he tries to do it himself. And what happens when you try to start a city yourself? And you're like, okay, you work here and you can live here, and then
Well, yeah, and you always had Whale Man there screwing things up for you.
Yep.
I call Whale Man from now on. That's his name.
He's like, my whale. I'm like, you dick. Always the whales. But no, I think that he was happy because it's almost like the release of the control of the gods gives him a freedom to release his own judgment as well, because his judgment was a surrogate judgment, if that makes sense, right? Of the gods. Because he was judging according to the ideology, the theology, whatever, the fucking philosophy of the gods. He judges you according to what he's been told about the gods. So he's letting loose in the most atheist of ways. But he really is. I mean, I don't think I voiced that right, but he is letting loose, and him saying he doesn't care. Yeah, and he's not going to meddle in that. Because he's like, nobody, I've tried doing it, man. He's like, I tried it. It doesn't work. There's a guy with a whale, I'm sure. Like, that wouldn't surprise him. He's like, sure, why not? I'm sure that would happen. Look, Trump was our president. Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't that happen?
I mean, in his philosophy, there's no point trying to understand what the gods are trying to do. You know, gods are trying to say. There's no freaking point. I mean, so why?
The gods are created for us to explain our actions. Is kind of the sentiment of the story, from what I get, is that they, at least Hearst, his atheist point of view, which has a lot validity to it, is that the gods' actions, God's wants and needs are just ways to validate our wants. So accordingly, too, as we see with Alfred and Ivar, you have these polarizing and these parallel lives in which anything, as long as there's some type of defined interference, almost like a babysitter. We always want to be coddled as humans, right? Like we always just don't. It is a sense of security and a lack of responsibility in which the gods provide us, no matter how you look at it. And I'm not totally an atheist. I'm saying, like, that is a general idea of that. I mean, you can't argue against that. Doesn't cradle you. You're like, well, that's what God wants. Like, who said that? Floki. That's why Floki, pretty much at the end, he's not speaking against it, but he's also like, shut the fuck up. He's pretty much like how I am, just like, shut the fuck up. I don't know. Like, honestly, like, it is what it is.
Don't
come to me with it. I'm not trying.
Don't come to me.
I'm not trying to preach to you guys right now or anything like that, or to you, Mild. I wouldn't dare to. Like, it's just, it is what it is. Like, but like, oh, who's got answers? It's like, nobody. Get a time machine back in time and see everybody looking for answers. Yeah.
So Justin, so are you satisfied with the ending of the show?
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with it all way, man, but I like it. I think that I really thought that he was gonna fuck it up. I think that he fucked it up for about 2. He nailed it. Not nailed it.
I think 5B was. I think 5B was the low point, and 6A was pretty bad. Yeah.
I almost stopped watching, and I got emotional 3 times during the season. I counted. I was like, oh, I'm feeling.
Yeah.
3 times.
You know, I mean, Bjorn was great. The downfall of Bjorn was great. The downfall of Ivar, I thought, was good because it didn't drag on. He just died in the battlefield. Great, he's dead. Yeah.
A part of me was satisfied.
I mean, Vitsert wasn't a major enough character to really care about, and I think his ending was pretty lazy. You know, it's pretty easy to do. What happened to Vitsert? You know, he turns into a Christian. Okay, fine. Okay, and that was a pretty easy way out, right? It happened within the span of 15 seconds.
It does, and it adheres to that. Is when they go back to the accounts, right? Because Vitsert is actually known to be burned to Jerusalem as a Christian, but there's also something called the North.
Yeah, and
they want to be Slavic, not Norse.
Yeah, and historically, right after the Battle of Edington, right, is King Guthrum is the one that actually gets converted to Christianity, and he becomes king of East Anglia. It was actually Guthrum.
Yeah, I keep saying Guthrid, and it is Guthrum.
Yeah, Guthrum. So I mean, so there is some, consistent sentiment. Okay,
Did you
to
hear
use your terminology, consistent sentiment. Okay.
I'm saying it's the right verbiage, but it's
but
it's a consistent emotional vibe, right? Like
and Ube and Floki sitting looking at the sunset, right?
You look like a Ragnar.
Yeah, I mean is that fitting?
Yeah.
Maybe. What does it represent? Represents the sunset of the Norse old ways, perhaps.
Well, like, it's the same thing with Westworld. The waves,
the
they start where they end. They're looking at the waves or on the beach. Carl Strand / Gustav. It is. It's very meta. Again, I like the overtness of. I actually appreciate it when it's on, like when they don't know exactly what to do, so they say, "Is this the end?" Because that's life, man. Like we all expect an end cap because by story is how we craft our own. Oh, there's a go out on greatness. Don't wake up. You know what I mean? So like, Ube says. And he's like, topically done with it. Like, I'm burnt out because people suck. And I thought it was well done, man. I think that
it was well done. Yeah,
I think that a lot of rushing. I think that they definitely could have dialed back on the roost, but I'm almost conflicted with that because I kind of liked the humanization of Ivar. I just think it could have started earlier on. But you could
it should have taken 5 episodes, in my opinion.
You could always go back
to get over that. To get over that. They could have spent more time in England, and I think they probably could have gotten rid of the whole Ingrid Eric plot line in Kattegat, in the in the last half of the season
What are they
because
gonna
that was
do with
meaningless.
What
It's
about
totally
Leif?
meaningless.
Leif Erikson is
Yeah.
casted in Valhalla.
Yeah.
So that is
Maybe he
Eric's
has a blind
son.
father. Maybe he maybe he magically survives that pitchfork in the heart.
Yeah, something. I don't know. Like that's that was a weird move because I know Leif Erikson is going to be one of the main protagonists. So he's like, oh, it's gonna be like Scooby Doo. They're just gonna pull off a mask. Be like, oh, they're real.
So, I mean, I think they could have streamlined it a little bit more, right? I mean, because that really was meaningless. The whole Kattegat political scene with Eric the Red and Ingrid last season, and they probably could have just focused more on England and America.
Once
the Vinland, I'll call it Vinland, right?
Yeah, you can't technically. Yeah, it would be the Vinland Sagas.
It'd be Vinland, yeah.
But once Harold left, I actually absolutely 100% with you on that. They should have never even shown Kattegat again. That should have been left up to the mind. There's something to be said for that. They totally could have saved a few links that he's probably going to have to fix, but that's on him. He's writing probably that series. Actually, he's not. It's mostly the guy that kind of wrote Die Hard. We'll get into that on another stream, so let's see how that works out.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it the guy that wrote Die Hard is the one writing?
No, he's the main one, and he got fired. But yeah, and I'm not.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah.
MFer.
Yeah, it's a weird move. I'm not going to lie. But Leif Erikson, meaning Eric's son, one that was blind and got pitchfork.
Eric the Red.
Interesting. Yeah, like I thought that they should have switched him out with flat nose. But anyways, that is neither here nor there. I would say in the age of disappointing long form storytelling, because one of the benefits is, like Breaking Bad is one of the best examples of a really good series. I think they end it really well. I think that it's a very potent story. I think that they heal the layers of white like very, very well. And I think that get deeper and deeper, and then as soon as you're in that abyss of death, plunge out and do it right. Now, El Camino, bad movie, fan service. Like that's an example right there of like a silly decision. But Dexter, not great. Game of Thrones, obviously terrible. Hot take. A lot of series have a hard time really sinking the landing, and I would say of a series that really struggled to define itself after the death of Ragnar. Because in all fairness, if we look at the production side of this, which I'll do in another video, he didn't expect to have more than one season. So he kept going on and then going on. And it's like, okay, I'm going to get this. So he did it in a commercial break. And he moved. So there's also things behind the scenes that we're not aware about with financing and how much time he actually had to tell a story. As soon as he found out he could tell the story of the Sons of Ragnar, that's when he jumped on it. I'm not agreeing with how he did it, but let's look at how that he didn't know he had that time. So he went to it. So it is what it is. And I think out of this mess, out of this primordial soup, right? Like I think that something great came out of this because I was almost done after season 5, bro. I was almost done.
I actually give a little bit of respect to Hearst, right, and the rest of the creative team in terms of pulling off this ending on relatively short notice because they only announced that this was going to be the final season like maybe a year ago, right? And they had to wrap everything up in 20 episodes essentially, because I think history probably, I think they probably expected at least one more season, but history just basically pulled the plug, right? On more seasons. I think this was it. So
I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
I think that Hearst
it was low ratings, right?
Yeah, I think that Hearst wanted to get to Valhalla. I really do think he wanted to move on. I'm not saying he did a Dan and Dave. I don't know the particulars of that. I would say I don't think there's any evidence for that, Milt. Like but if there is, like I also don't have evidence against. I also do not have evidence against.
Yeah, so I mean, if he did pull Dan and Dave, he did a better job than Dan and Dave in terms of closing it, obviously, right? So
I don't think he jumped out the door, but I think this deal with Amazon totally showed it that he wanted to, test the waters and he wanted to do what he did. There's some talk in the chat. No, I get. I shouldn't have said that, but I don't think that it's fair to say. I think that this series, there's a lot of talk about this series ending before it should, and I think it's ridiculous. And I know that's not exact. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that to you because that's not really what you were getting at. I'm just so sick of looper videos, guys. Let me apologize to Milton here because looper videos. The real reason that Travis Fimmel left the series, because his goddamn contract was done. No, but if you watch, there's all these videos about the real reason this ended, and that's actually not what. It's all this pent up anger towards them that I was like, oh, I don't think. But there's no evidence against you either that he didn't want another season. I would say that since he started writing outside of the MGM Studios, that's the actual conglomerate in which all this falls under, for Valhalla, that it's pretty. I think that it's safe to say he was fine, and I think this was fair to get out when he got out. I think they could have spent the time better, but we all could have spent our time better. But no, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have discredited that because I don't have a credited source saying that that's wrong either.
I mean, that's what I heard about history, just kind of pulling the plug, kind of like, moment's notice sort of thing. So
it wouldn't be surprising to me for many reasons because of Valhalla being announced, not with them, right?
Yeah. So when was Valhalla announced? Because I'm
almost 2 years ago now, and it's making me like it literally was like a year and a half ago. So it could have been because of that. I just don't think.
It's in the same time frame. Yeah,
because we got 12 seasons. We have 6, like every single season is
3, 2, 2, 2.
Yeah, okay,
that's 9.
Yeah, because so the first 3 only went 10, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the first 3 only went 10.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that's quite a bit.
I think the first season only went 9. I think.
Yeah, 9.
The first season only went 9.
Which he thought would be the end, and he was going to kill Ragnar.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just see as soon as he found out he had more money, more capital to tell this story, and he found out he could tell the story that's actually more documented of the little piggies, Ragnar's kids. He jumped on it. He jumped way too quick.
Yeah.
And they definitely could have done better, but I think that this is a success. I think that the interesting aspect of this will be the future of storytelling as we have it, because now I'm a big fan of weekly releases. I'm not going to lie, not just because I'm a content creator, but I think that this series...
We're switching gears now.
Yeah, but let's get to the end of it here. Let's get to the real thing, the money for all of us. But like, okay, well, for example, I actually don't really care about this. My channel is for me and my lovely Patreons and those that support, creativity and all that. And I will help others be successful. But I will say that a series like Westworld would never work as an instant release because of that. You need those weeks of speculation. You need that week of the marketing. Mandalorian has done it week by week. They've done it smart. They played off. And I actually think that series, I haven't watched it all. I started watching it. I think that could work. But the point is, there are certain series that are clearly written for instantaneous release, meaning a whole release that people can binge. And then there's series that are clearly, like Westworld would not roll, people. Like, you would not watch, or you'd watch it and then you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, watch Westworld 10 episodes without us like speculating in between. Doesn't mean it's a bad show. It means it's written for a certain medium. And the medium is the message. Even if it's on AMC or HBO matters. If you have act breaks, that matters. There's cliffhangers. This is a big deal that we have an instant release of this series. That's probably the reason for low viewing of this, or will be a reason for low viewing of this. A lot of people don't have access to it, but I'll tell you what, I found it to be pretty coherent as an instant release, and kind of like we're ready to get to the end of this story anyways, because like, after Ragnar died, all of our hearts kind of died with him, but in fairness, he summed it up well. And I'd be interested to hear somebody, because I have no restraint. I've said it before. Like, I'm not gonna ever, if you give me something all at once, I'm the cookie, I'm like, all day, I'm just gonna take it, I'm gonna watch it all and absorb it like that. But like I said, Westworld would fail. But then you have a series that would not fail, like Daredevil, like stuff like that. Like those shows, you can tell that they're written without act breaks, or written knowing people will binge at least because they have an algorithm, like 3 to 4 episodes at once. These stories are actually mathematically calculated. And that doesn't mean they're not good. That means that they're smart. You're writing for an audience. If you have somebody that's going to go watch a play, you write it for that time span. This isn't to be looked at it like some like technological sense, if that makes any type of sense to you guys. Like, don't look at it as demeaning on episodes, but understand if you go and watch a story and you sit in a theater for it, they write it for that. This now will be released simultaneously. Well, not simultaneously. They already released it all on Amazon. It's and now it's going to go on week to week. So we'll see how it does. My point is, there's some series that cannot do that. Westworld, big one.
So Vikings this season. Was this bingeable for you?
Yes.
Or did this have to be a weekly?
Well, that's the thing. It could work as both. They definitely
Okay. So in my opinion, right, I think the first episode was definitely had all the hallmarks of a weekly.
Yes.
But then it became a freaking blur, right, in the middle. And then I think 9 and 10 were kind of like weeklies. I think the middle was a blur in my binge session. It was just way too... I mean, to me, that was kind of like the binge part of the season.
I can't tell if that's because of
I
the
don't know.
incoherent second act to transition to your
Yeah.
third Darkest Before the Dawn, like we spoke about
Yeah,
issues, which
yeah.
fair enough is the hardest part of any story of how you
Yeah.
revive from your low point to your high point in your third
Mm-hmm.
act, meaning get to your third act. But I would argue that this series was definitely made so it wasn't incoherent. Literally, guys, if you had Westworld, like you guys don't get it. Maybe some of you do, but if you watch Westworld all at once, you would think it was a shit show.
Mhm.
You really wouldn't. You would not like that show. You like that time between. They write for that time between. If you watch Walking Dead all at once, that without the act breaks, meaning the 4 act breaks, cliffhangers per episode for commercials, you would also think differently of that if that's the first viewing of it. You notice that when you watch it, and you even notice it with Vikings, right? Milt, like you saw the fade to black.
Yeah.
And then come back. Those are your act breaks. That's where your commercials will obviously be. But that's the medium is a message, and it is formatted for that. But we now are in a digital age where people ask, if you film them, why don't you just give them to us? But that's where the writers have to think, am I writing for television or am I writing for cable? Meaning like premium without that. Like, and I think that series like Stranger Things would do a lot better, I think, if it was week to week. Like, I think that show would have so much. Like, not
I've
that
only
it has-
watched 30 minutes of that show. I still have only
Really?
30 minutes. Yep.
Well, but I like it. I don't mind it. What I'm saying is that Stranger Things is like one of those really popular shows that would be like a Westworld level show if it was week to week, right? So there's certain like things of suspension and having that discourse with that fandom family that we talk about, speculating about story, talking about story, you know, and waxing poetic about it that really works well. And it's a great marketing tool as well.
Sure.
As that asshole from Lucasfilms just found out when he made fun of somebody that was doing half their marketing. And they're like, guess what, asshole, you don't have a job.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have no issues with it being released all at once because
I love
you
it.
know, I mean, you know, only because I was just excited to watch it, right? To get Vikings in,
Which is a good sign.
Yeah, and and at the end of the day, I feel a little bit sad that it's gone now.
Yeah.
But there's always Valhalla, right? So,
well,
hopefully it
maybe
comes within it.
Yeah, it's an interesting outcome, and we have to look at this for the release of our future properties. Like you know, with House of the Dragon, I guarantee they're going to do that weekly. I think that the shows that have done the weekly releases through streaming services have set a standard. But is there a connection here, Milt, on a final thought between are we going to go to the new world and do things by the old ways? Because I guarantee you people that Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon, half of them already will abide by the old world's rules, and it'll be cable all over again, people. They will stop giving you things at once, and they will do it, but sometimes for the better.
Okay.
Sometimes stories are better.
Well, I mean, it's all about money, right? I mean, like,
Yes.
like if you put everything, if you have your favorite show and it all gets dumped on you at once, you only have to pay 1 month of subscription to watch it all. If they do it weekly, you're gonna have to pay, 4 or 5 months of subscription to watch it all. You as a company, what would you rather, do?
Well,
you
also,
probably do it weekly, right?
well-
just to gouge your customers more to basically have them pay an extra, 4 months of subscription.
But it depends on the service that you're selling to the conglomerate. Because if you sell to Netflix and you still go weekly, or Hulu and you still go weekly, you don't get paid per view, right? You get paid as a whole. So they're no longer like holding a property to views as much. It is a macro pay. It's a all at once. This is what we'll give you for your story. Here you go. And we hope it does well. When another series could go to another medium that pays differently. It it out.
Okay. Now on the flip side, right? You can always say that, okay, well, if we give everything at once to a subscriber, okay, that's the hook, right? Then they'll want to watch more and more stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then then they can put a spattering of weekly stuff mixed in with bundled stuff, right? All at once, and then you would just hook them for life, right?
Yeah, I see no reason why people don't do that all the time.
I mean, personally, right? I'm not a big TV viewer, so I kind of liked having it all dumped on me for once because
we as consumers do. Yeah. But the question is, would you have stopped watching if it was not dumped on us at once? And the answer to that is pretty clear because we did it for.
Yeah, I would not have stopped watching.
We will continue to watch it. And what you said is what it does is it keeps consumers in your marketplace. So it keeps them there for if it's on HBO Max, just hypothetically, right? Then they'll watch old Sopranos episodes, watch old fucking Game of Thrones episodes, right? Like, this is keeping people in a place because they are getting their subscription and they're going to keep it for 3 months because that's how long Vikings is going to last, week to week. And then you can have dumps on them in between. That sounds like a hot Carl. It's not. It's a real thing that would make money, but you have, like you said, you can binge things in between, but I don't see the benefit fiscally of telling a story without segmenting it out. I can't now, as a storyteller, I can tell you there's a benefit.
If you zoom in on just the series,
I see no benefit of it. But as a storyteller, I see a benefit of it. So that's where you have commerce meet art, and good luck with all that. We'll see what happens. Guarantee that everything will look like Comcast cable 100 years from now. Everything will. I guarantee it already is. It already is. And for better or worse, guys, it's a system. And just like, he says, oh, you want to come to a new world and do things the old way? Well, watch Westworld season 3 all at once.
I haven't seen Westworld season 3 yet, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's fine. It's good. Actually, Westworld season 3 is a lot better than you watch season 2 all at once. And that is a show that relies on stupid speculation of smart people. They're like, it's all a simulation, fellas. And then it never is, but they do it every single season, and the YouTubers get a bunch of views, and everybody's like, ooh, it's gonna be a simulation, and it never is. Please stop thinking it will be. Please stop. It's the same thing you guys fall for, but like, that's the thing. But if you watch it all at once, guess what? Those guys wouldn't make any money. Wouldn't really burn my ass too much. Fair. But yeah, also, you could just take it for what it is. But there's also a benefit in having that, that discourse within the fandom. And that is something that is a modern day, it's a social status, it's a social interaction that we have with people. We talk about stories, so we have a story. There it is. Milt, Westeros, Ninja, what do you got going on? You got a bike behind you. Yeah, you got new lights. You got a new microphone.
Oh, yeah. I got a bike.
Yeah, look at this.
I got Funko Pops.
I don't know if he's ever rode
I got a Van Gogh ripoff.
Ooh.
And I have a snow skate.
He's a fellow that cut his ear off.
Well, actually, it's only because I'm about ready to move, right? I was planning on moving, so a lot of my upstairs landing, if you will, got cleared out. So that's all I have right now. But what's going on with me? Well, really not much going on right now. I think the last thing I did was a political stream. Not political stream, but like a little video. But after that, I mean, I think I'm pretty much done in politics at this point, for good, obvious reasons.
We're all dead behind that.
Big thing on my channel right now. I put up an upload. I will be doing a trivia tournament, or hosting one. That's my plan right now, is to host a trivia tournament starting Super Bowl Sunday. Super Bowl 51 Sunday, which is like February,
I don't know if it's going to be
7th or 8th or 14th,
usually
or not Valentine's Day, but it's somewhere like that now.
Yeah,
so, besides that, I'll be around. And if anything floats my boat, you'll definitely hear something about it. Oh yeah, wait a minute. My last upload was my top 10 favorite Christmas songs. I actually did an upload on that.
What were they? What was the number one?
Number one was "Do They Know It's Christmas" by Band Aid.
I like that one that says.
Was it pretty sappy?
I like the one with Santa Baby, and when she's like, "One more thing, a rain," because I used to play it when I worked at the Gap, and it's clear that she's not the most ethical of ladies. But yeah, no, I like it. I find her very intriguing, and I want to buy her one.
I think my number 5 was "Baby It's Cold Outside," and everybody's saying it's a sexist song now. So.
Yeah, almost all. Yeah, you can't. Nothing ages well. You put out a tweet, it's you're gonna get fucking canceled for it 2 weeks from now. But also, people are also there are pieces of shit out there that we probably should cancel. So yeah, I don't get away from it either. Yeah, like play the middle ground. I always say, anybody that's an absolutist is a moron. Yeah, be a moderate. Yeah, because there's pieces of shit. They're like, oh yeah, you got people waving Nazi flags or like saying cancel culture. I'm like, yeah, we need it for that right there. And then there's other people getting canceled. So yeah, be reasonable. That's it.
Well, I mean, just because it says on who you cancel. Whether or not you're on the right or the left on a political spectrum, or whether or not you're on the right or left on the religious spectrum.
Yeah, just, here's a clue. If they're a piece of shit, just cancel them. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you got like right on.
Yeah, a whole bunch of pieces of shit.
They're
like, what's with this cancel culture? I'm like, well, you're a piece of shit. So I know this is probably bad for you. Yeah.
No, you're a piece of shit, and it's pretty much universally agreed on that you're a POS. So go ahead and
let's go ahead and just make this simple. Before we just used to call that "you're a piece of shit, get away." Yeah, It is what it is. Yeah, but we'll figure it out.
But it's also within the confines and rights of free speech, right? So you want to be a piece of.
You got the freedom to say whatever you want to the people that'll tell you to fuck off. So it is what it is. The market always dictates the worth, and that is your worth, whether you like it or not or agree with it. I like to keep it classy here on Top Shelf Fandom, and that's why I have a geophysicist, Milt, who I always tout his degree, whether it's relevant or not, which is not, except for but yeah. Silly geophysicist.
Yeah, and it really helped, right, in this discussion.
No, it always helps.
Yes, having a mountain fall on you is pretty much, 100% death.
Well, you heard it here first, fellas.
Unless you're Floki or Arya Stark, then it's okay.
You heard it here first. That's a geophysicist from Top Shelf Fandom saying it's deadly to have a mountain fall on you. You heard it first from science.
Yeah.
So whether or not, and you heard it from me, a theologian, that religion might be bullshit. Who knows? We'll figure it out, maybe, if but make sure to subscribe, and make sure to go over and check out the Westerosi Ninja. Make sure to support creativity. I want to take one more chance just to say thank you to Lady Starfall, who's been here. Omar's been here. I missed a lot of people. It's probably a lot of fuck you, Justin. I got canceled. Oh well, it happens. No, no. And we got Lady Starfall, Omar. We got Ragnar. Thank you so much. I know that Vicon Targaryen stopped by, and a lot of Heidi Costume Co. She just put out another wonderful video. An educated person on YouTube. It's like unicorn. So go and check it out. It's fantastic. Skull to you as well. And check out the Westeros Ninja. Yeah, and we got some series coming up, people. I'm looking forward to the Saints of New York, an actual film I might cover, because I've been a big I've been fiending on that Soprano stuff, like we were talking about with watching HBO Max. I've been really getting back into the Sopranos. I'm all pumped up for that, so the nostalgia's worked on me. It got me hook, line, and sinker. But besides that, we'll be doing the Obsidian Road on Gray Area's channel. Obsidian Nights is something that comes out weekly. Wonderful program. At least check out. And the Westerosi Ninja and all that good stuff. The fandom family. Subscribe, support, and be safe.